not play a role because of television.
The sort of thing I say about this gets very unpopular reviews, and people call me an elitist or worse, but I'm used to it. And what I tell people is that journalists, by their nature, they may not have any specific training, but they have some judgment which is built in from doing the job, just the same way as you get a judgment from any sort of job. But I think the job of a journalist is to not precipitate an echo chamber where people are allowed to hear what they want and tune into something that only magnifies their point of view. Because it does, not to get academic on this, but when people are exposed to one point of view, study after study shows it not only reinforces it, but makes it stronger, makes them more extreme in their views, and makes them reject other things.
Interesting point. You know, you have a news media environment on the national scene now where you have a one network perceived as extremely conservative, one network now perceived as liberal, MSNBC, one network that's trying to do it straight down the middle, CNN, and also
and struggling, by the way.
And so you have these perceptions of what is news and what isn't news. And the problem is when people see it long enough, and you're right, if they just see Fox, if they just watch MSNBC, they're getting a certain point of view, and they need the other point of view, don't they?
Absolutely, and I always maintain, and I'm very old school about this, you have a great responsibility to do more than watch television. Citizenship isn't free, and if you're going to participate in this process, watch television, get a newspaper, pick this thing up and actually get headlines on it. It's useful that way.
Yeah.
But my problem is, and I agree with you at the risk of the first time in my life ever being accused of elitism, the notion that if you choose exposure to one voice, you hear only echoes, and democracy isn't served. And I know that sounds strange coming from me, but I can remember a conversation about the time that Dan Rather had left the CBS Evening News among some people in New York, a couple of whom had been former officers of that news division, about whether democracy would be really damaged if CBS News went away. And I have to tell you something, it would.
Yeah.
You know, and also there's this certain myth around all of the cable channels that do news, left, right, and center, that the world is focused on them. There's not a large aggregate audience there. It's an audience of stakeholders. It's an audience of opinion leaders. But it's not necessarily in concentric circles of information. It's not the first hit.
But in places like that, in places like All News Radio, people who watch cable news and All News Radio vote. Okay, they are voters. They're more likely to vote than people who just watch local news.
Right. I think, though, that what they also want is an accurate look at what's happening in politics. I mean, I'm all for as many sources of information as you could possibly get, and that's the beauty of the internet. That's the beauty of the proliferation of cable news. But you know, there certainly is the reality that people are choosing sides these days, and they're coming down saying, I'm going to watch Fox News and nothing else, and they read Fox News, they log on to opinionjournal.com, or they go the other way. So we have to find kind of a middle ground and figure out exactly where we can come down, still attract viewers, and yet give them a comprehensive picture of what's happening in the world and in politics.
Okay, message to Tribune. It's September 11th, 2001. In the morning hours, reports that a plane hit a building in New York. There are no anchors. There's nobody to disseminate information. Imagine what would happen at this moment as we watch Tom Brokaw on that day.
This is an NBC News special report. Here is Tom Brokaw.
September 11th, the year 2001, a day unlike any other in the long course of American history, a terrorist act of war against this country. President Bush saying today that freedom has been attacked by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended. Not since Pearl Harbor was attacked on December 7th, 1941, has this country undergone such a devastating and damaging attack.
Voice of calm. A voice in that, not play on words, a voice of reason in those moments. We had a situation in Philadelphia years ago where Springfield High School in Montgomery County, where a young man shot up the lobby, I think, and he killed himself. One of the TV stations in this town, not yours, went on the air and reported that several people were dead. That was not true. That was not true. Secondly, this TV station never mentioned which Springfield it was. There are 3 Springfields in this area. There's a Springfield in Montco, Springfield in Delco, Springfield in Bucks, and a Springfield in South Jersey. Height of irresponsibility. Height of irresponsibility. This would be concern to me in a crisis situation, having somebody at the wheel who didn't know how to disseminate information.
Right. And if the information was incorrect in a respectable news organization, someone would change. Remember when Frank Reynolds announced that James Brady had died? And then he got news that it hadn't happened, and he said, well, let's nail this down. We've got to get it. And that sort of cemented my faith in that news organization.
They thought he was thinking out loud. Let's get it right.
Let's get it right.